Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Monday, the 10th of April, Easter Monday, no less. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this Monday morning by Joshua Barrie. How are you doing, Joshua?
Yeah, good, Derek. Yeah, lots to get into. Obviously, busy day yesterday, kind of looking back at the game, but looking forward to talking about it a bit more in detail.
Yeah, we'll get our teeth stuck into it shortly, folks. Before we do that, just a reminder, as ever, if you want to take advantage of the website, the Rangers Review site, just £2 for 2 months worth of content. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. Just £2.99 per month thereafter. Even at that, it's a bargain and you won't be disappointed, I assure you. If you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, over 12,000 subscribers now. Thank you to each and every one of you. Just hit that button on our YouTube channel. You'll never miss a video when we go live if you hit the notification bell. Daily morning briefing videos, folks, during the week. And you also get match day videos as well. Loads of content coming your way if you've subscribed to our YouTube channel. And a quick word to our podcast sponsors, Seneca Hair Restoration, the #1 hair transplant group in Europe. If you're looking for a hair transplant or perhaps restoring some lost self-confidence, then these are the guys to go to. And as ever, I've bunged the links, the all-important links in the description box also. So do go and check them out. Right, let's talk Rangers. Joshua, disappointing weekend. We did it. If you've not seen the post-match reaction video, folks, on Saturday evening, I do urge you to check out myself, Joshua, and Johnny reacting to the 3-2 defeat at Parkhead. You are looking at the numbers and assessing the defeat in closer detail yesterday, Joshua. What did you find?
Yeah, well, there's kind of two strands to this, Derek, and I think we discussed this after the game. I think there's a better performance. Rangers obviously have a goal ruled out that shouldn't have been ruled out. They had enough chances to I think, not leave that game without any points. But in the same breath, you have this group of players kind of failing to step up in this fixture, which has happened too often over the last couple of years. Familiar failings, and that will naturally, I think, make the analysis of a game like this pretty difficult for people because, you know, if you look at Michael Beale's spell so far in isolation, I think he got the cup final wrong. I think his approach on Saturday was much better. If you look at the numbers, Rangers created slightly more than Celtic. That doesn't tell the whole story, but I think what it does show is that they limited Celtic quite a lot. Their approach off the ball kept them quite high up the pitch. And I think one of the main differences between the game, Derek, and the kind of deeper analysis on this is on the website and in the comment section as well. You know, if you take that first half, Rangers win the ball back after 2 minutes and Kent goes through on goal and he fails to play Morelos. A few minutes later, Rangers press again. It forces Carter Vickers, I think it's this time, to play a backwards, kind of blind pass, and Morelos just can't quite get onto the end of it.
Yeah.
If you look at the start of the second half where Rangers make that mistake, Ben Davies headers the ball into Jota, and then Kyogo scores, taking advantage of a mistake, and then obviously Jota gets onto John Souttar's pass. I think that in many ways is quite descriptive of the difference between the two teams on the day. I don't think there was, by any stretch, a gulf. I don't think it was like the Old Firm game where one at Hampden 2 months ago, where one team really had control. And I think when Celtic are at their best, it's probably when they're in the final thirds. I thought Rangers dealt with the rotations a lot better. But that was the difference for me. The one side had attackers who were clinical, who didn't miss opportunities, and who, you know, Morelos' misses at the start of the second half aren't glaring. It's not as if he's missed an open goal. It's not as if he's put one over the bar from close range. But if you compare his chance value to the shots Kyogo finished, they're very similar, you know, a 0.2 decimal point away from one another. All that to say, I think it's not so much Morelos' fault per se, but you know, if you look at what Celtic had, they could count upon clinical finishers and Rangers could not. And again, that's epitomised, I think, by Kent and Morelos at the end of the game, failing to take that shot. Seneca actually makes a nice run to create the angle for Morelos. So that makes it a day of what Beale called a missed opportunity because aside from all that, and aside from the fact that there is positives to take, it's difficult to take positives after an Old Firm defeat. And the only way I think people will get over an Old Firm defeat, as we've said before, Derek, is by winning one. And until that happens, I think naturally the frustration will kind of remain the same.
Yeah, it was ultimately a frustrating afternoon. Rangers showed up much better than they did in the League Cup final. Of that there is no doubt. Still can't get my head around the Morelos goal that was disallowed. For me, that changes the whole complexion of the game. Rangers go in front there. They were the team on the up. Michael Beale did touch on that as well, of course, in his post-match interviews. I'm still getting my head around why it was disallowed. I know that Rangers have written to the SFA seeking an explanation. Good luck with that. But listen, I think everyone is well aware of Kevin Clancy and how poor he is as a referee. I don't think he should have handled a game of this magnitude. And unfortunately, we were talking about the referee after the game. An interesting point from Alex Campbell. And I've seen a few people mention it on social media. Perhaps the pressure in Scotland is too much for some officials. He says, we played well. Foreigner English refs required for this event. After that on Saturday, I wouldn't be opposed to that for this fixture, Joshua. I just think it's too big. I've mentioned before, we've got part-time officials in this country. I think they should be full-time. Managers down in the lower leagues in England are calling for full-time referees, so there's no reason why we shouldn't have full-time referees in Scotland. But this point from Alex, would you be opposed to that at all, or do you think English or foreign referees, would that make a difference?
I think the more kind of surprising element of the decision was that it didn't get overturned. I mean,
yes,
yeah, as we said, I think after the game at the weekend, I think that if you give a foul for that, you probably give a foul at every single defensive or to the defensive side at every corner or free kick, and I just think the standard of refereeing is pretty poor. So but I think VAR is well culpable for not overturning that. Aside from that, Rangers obviously should be one goal ahead. Definitely should be one goal ahead. But aside from that, I think even after that point, they had enough moments, and before that point, to go and capitalise on it. And I think that's what Michael Beale was. I don't think criticised the referee decision since he came back up the road, even when maybe he's had some license to do so, but he was frustrated at that and vocalised his frustration after the game. In the same breath, he still spoke about a missed opportunity because there was that inability of Rangers forwards to make the most of half chances. And the way I described it in one of the pieces I wrote yesterday, Derek, was that the game felt kind of malleable. It was there for someone, and only James Tavernier from a Rangers point of view did it, for someone to step up and put them ahead at the start of that second half. If you look at by 65 minutes, both sides sat on just below 0.5 expected goals. They both had the kind of same value of opportunity in terms of actual shots taken, not just promising attacks. But Celtic had taken theirs. They'd made the most of their period of ascendancy, and Rangers hadn't. And I think that was the difference that ultimately cost Rangers in the second half.
Yeah, just on the English refs, Kev says anyone who watched the Spurs game at the weekend wouldn't want those officials. Yeah, they're getting absolutely pilloried down in England as well. And a crazy incident as well yesterday in the Arsenal-Liverpool game when Andy Robertson, of course, the big baby, as Roy Keane described, getting in the face of the assistant referee, who appeared to put out an elbow, has been investigated by the PGMOL, which will be interesting to see what the outcome of that is. But officials down south as well get it wrong of that, there is no doubt. James Ellsby with an interesting point. Decision was wrong, but the ref didn't make the defensive mistakes. That's an important point, Joshua, isn't it? I mean, Rangers gift wrapped 2 goals to Celtic. You simply cannot do that. And as you mentioned, if that's at the other end of the pitch, I mean, you wouldn't have much confidence that the Rangers forward line would be able to take those opportunities, whereas Celtic do have the players, the difference makers in Kyogo, especially Jota, the other one who laps onto the slack back pass from John Souttar. And that's the difference for me. And it's an area of the pitch that Rangers really need to get right in the summer.
Yeah, because you have a player in Kyogo who I think has decided the outcome of. We scored the equaliser, obviously, at Ibrox in January, then scored twice in the cup final, scored twice on Saturday. Rangers have not been able to count on a player who can provide those numbers in Old Firm games. I think it is quite simple in that regard, Derek, that they do require, as we've, I think, spoken about quite a lot, someone who is going to provide that full kind of package as a number 9. I thought Morelos, outside of that, had quite a good game, a relatively good game in terms of providing Rangers with a focal point to play into, occupying Carter Vickers. I thought he won quite a lot of his duels up against him, but just wasn't able to finish that chance. Obviously, Jack gets in the way of the header. It was something we spoke about before the game, Morelos' strengths at attacking set pieces. I thought Rangers worked them really well, and those 2 opportunities, obviously they should come out with a goal in the first half, but in the second half as well. If that header's just either side, then it may well be a goal, given how close to the goalkeeper it was. In terms of other performers, I thought Nico Raskin was really good, Derek. Unfortunate to not be on the winning side.
Yeah,
Rangers were able to play out through pressure and just have more control of a game in a way that they haven't in those previous 2 Old Firm games. And I think that's an encouraging sign, because they've been too reliant, I think, on going over the press instead of playing through it. Jack and Raskin both allowed them to do it by kind of making those runs down the side of the fullbacks from goal kicks. I thought Tillman, again, watching the game back, struggled to really make an impact on the game. Again, it's fine margins. And everyone knows how big a fan I am of him, but I don't think I think him and Kent, just their execution in the final third, these are the differences between winning these games or not winning these games. And I guess that'll be a big frustration as well for the manager, that Rangers had a platform to go win that game. There was the opportunity to go and win that game. There's a big difference between getting yourself to that position and becoming the clinical team who go and do that, which obviously they weren't able to do at the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. There's loads of comments coming. I'll get to a few of them, folks. A number of comments on Tav. James Strachan says, good evening, morning, Derek, Joshua, and all the loyal Bears subscribers. I think we have a ready-made number 9. Tav is a man, 2 great goals. Yeah, it will be lost in the game. The free kick was absolutely sublime, and a great header from a great pick out from Borna Barisic at the back post. And just echoing from that, there was a point here. Ian Edwards says, is there a case that we could actually use Tav as a striker? He has always been criticised for his defensive frailties, but going forward, he is dangerous. He has said it himself in press conferences, Joshua, that he's itching, he's desperate to play as a striker. Listen, I think I would give it a go at the end of the season. Just play him up front. See if that's the answer. Would you go along with that? I know we've spoken about it before. You don't think it's the case, but listen, he's Rangers' most threatening outlet. He was on Saturday from right back, 100 goals from that position, which is utterly incredible. He's desperate to play up front. I would give him a run out. But listen, the league's gone, so that now is the time to experiment.
I think on a serious note of Tavernier's position, and you look at the European run last season, you can still get in the box if you start at right back. It's just about, especially if Rangers hold a lot of the ball, the position between. If you look at his average position in a lot of games, he's not occupying the position of a right back. Out of possession, he will, but starting from that position allows him to arrive in the box on track, as he did for that header that went close, which could have made it a hat-trick and could have made it 3-3. If you think back to those European games, almost a year since Leipzig, those runs towards the back post were facilitated because he was able to do it from deep and arrive in the box. So his best position is 100% a right back, and facilitated as when it's facilitated by a midfielder like Ryan Jack, who allows him to get forward and covers that space. It is a point that the Rangers have lacked a clinical player in the final third, but I don't think the answer is to move a clinical player out of their position. I think the answer is that you need to recruit players or work and develop players in that front court threat who are going to make a difference. With some players like Tillman, I think people will flip-flop between them and now will say, are you really going to pay $5 million for him? I don't think that's a wise argument personally, because again, you've got to remember he's in his first season as a professional footballer.
Yeah,
criticism. Of course, these games do make or kind of break players in Glasgow, absolutely. But there's players I think that can be developed. You've got to look at players like Ryan Kent, who's now 26, and I think Beale said in the press conference on Friday, made a few mentions to the fact that these games will make or break futures. These games will dictate who has a future at the club effectively. And I just wonder how much that plays into Kent's performance at the weekend, because although I think he's been better under Kent, a bit better under Beale, I wrote about him after the Motherwell game where I feel that he's been miscategorised at points and his role isn't kind of maybe understood sometimes what he does. But in a game like that, when he's in the final third, I think his decision making was poor, and that has to be really considered going into next season. At times, things just need freshness, Derek, and I think you look at, obviously, the comparison's been made a lot to Celtic, and not only the way they've recruited, but the fact that a lot of players who were there maybe a few years ago who were good players just needed to move on. There is a time for that, and just wonder how much that game will play into Beale's thinking. I think, as Johnny's written on the website this morning.
Yeah, lots of comments on Tav, but CGM55 says, really common talk sense, please. So yeah, apologies for that, slightly deviating from the subject matter perhaps, but listen, people are talking about it. Tavernier with another 2 goals at the weekend, 100 goals for the club, which is quite incredible. Ian Thompson agrees with you, Joshua. He says Tav's strengths is his late runs into the box, and his ability to hit a dead ball accounts for a lot of his goals. He agrees with you. Some news and a lot of comments coming in with regards to this. Reports that Rangers apparently are approaching Hearts for Lawrence Shankland. We don't have... we need to investigate this further, folks, but comments come in. Rumours of a Shankland's approach yesterday. He's a good player, but surely he's not the clinical striker we're looking for. I think I said in January time, I was surprised Rangers weren't looking at both him and Kevin Nisbet at the time. Joshua, I think both could have done a job. I know that Nisbet's moved down south to, was it Watford? Fell through.
No, he turned it down. He's still at Hibs. He was meant, he had a bid accepted, I believe, from Millwall, and then turned it down.
Yeah,
but no, Shankland, I don't think that's. Speaking, realistically, if you look at Beale's comments about his number 9 in January, I don't think Shankland's the player he's going for with that. You're going to have Cholak Brown next season to play, you'd imagine, to play certain types of games where he will score goals, and as he showed at the start of the season. If you look for someone who's going to score those goals against certain level of opposition in the Premiership, I think he can do that. We know that Sakala is going to be around as well. I think particularly away from home, he can be effective. My money would be on Rangers, going and getting a number 9 that Beale has spoken about and said he's identified previously, just because as we're, learning, I think looking over this game, it's just such an important position for Rangers, especially when you look at these Old Firm games.
Yeah. Listen, there will be bargains to be had out there. It is difficult, but that is up to the recruitment team to go out and identify a player that is a difference maker and can make the difference in these sort of games. I think Rangers, for me, need at least 2 strikers in the summer. Jury's out on whether we'll see Kamar Roof fit and firing once again. I think Alfredo Morelos' days are numbered. Antonio Cholak, for as much as I think he'll be a useful squad member and he'll do well against teams that play that low block, especially at Ibrox, Joshua. For me, Rangers need at least 2, and that's not even taking into account Ryan Kent, who we'll get on to shortly, but 2 strikers for me has to be the minimum that walk through the door at Ibrox.
Yeah, probably. Obviously, we don't know what will definitely happen with Tillman, where he plays going forwards. But yeah, it's an area of the pitch that I think you look at someone like Raskin and that performance on Saturday, how much he's brought into the side already overall. A lot of pressure rightly on recruitment this summer, especially when you look at the likes of the money spent on Matondo last summer and Yilmaz, and for different reasons and within different contexts, both of them not able to make an impact in a game like that at the weekend. Justifiably, there's a lot of pressure on recruitment this summer. It has to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's get on to Ryan Kent, because there was a few comments coming in with regards to his poor display at the weekend. Fergus says, Kent needs to go. We need forwards that can score 10 to 15 a season. His numbers is something that's always been levelled at him. In terms of assists, he always provides numbers with that regard in the main. Goals, however, has been lacking, and that's been an issue for him ever since he joined from Liverpool what, 5 seasons or so now ago. So
Yeah.
he is another one. He has been a difference maker in these games in the past. However, recently he's gone missing for a lot of supporters. Joshua, another poor performance at Parkhead. Rangers needed more from him. Alistair Johnson dealt with him relatively well. Do Rangers need to find a different option going forward? And then there's just on the back of that, Gary Gray raises a point here. I'm sure this will spark debate. He says, do we need to give Matondo a run in the team instead of Kent, with Kent likely leaving at the end of the season? What's your views on that?
Yeah, I think Kent has looked better in under Beale when he's played in that kind of free role in the middle of the pitch. And at times, I think that's when he can have performances like Hibs away or Motherwell away, where he doesn't get goals or assists, but he still has an impactful game. That obviously isn't the weekend, and the weekend is justifiably on the back of this season when players are going to be judged, when people want players to step up and make a difference. I think the difference for Kent at the weekend is he was more kind of isolated out wide, wasn't in the middle, quite different to the role he's normally played under Beale. Rangers, I think, played wider in general. There was a lot of things he did, I think, in response to that cup final, when they just weren't able to get up the pitch, and Celtic were able to really counter-press quite efficiently. It's similar to the conversation about Morelos when you're looking at it a couple of weeks ago, Derek, and you're saying, how do you sell, how do you justify making this guy, he's already going to be one of your top earners, but presumably giving him an improved contract, a big contract, is he the one to kind of spearhead Michael Beale's side? Michael Beale obviously spoke about energy in the final third. Again, I think Morelos had a relatively okay, probably bordering on good performance at the weekend without scoring, but it's that difference, and it's picking the right time to move on. And Kent, we know how good the relationship is between Kent and Beale. Spoken about it a lot. As I say, I think there has been an upturn in his performances, but these games will probably dictate players' futures, and there is a time, if Kent was to sign, say, a 3-4 year contract, you're talking about spending a decade if he was to see that out at the club. That's a long time. So yeah. I don't know. I just think you get a sense watching these games sometimes that the one kind of intangible thing you need from a Rangers point of view is freshness. That's what I think Raskin gave you. There was a moment in 90 minutes where Sakala strayed offside, but Raskin got the ball deep, turned his man after playing 90 minutes and managed to, find Sakala in the box. It was a brilliant bit of play, and as I say, Sakala was not watching the line, and it was a frustrating passage of play. Cantwell, I thought he did well off the ball, wasn't able to impact it as much as he wanted on the ball, but obviously he's made a really positive start as well. You just need freshness, and I think that's what Beale will be acknowledging going into the summer. We can't underestimate maybe how much he knows that as well, because although he's having to manage the season, he said on Sky before the game that he spoke about these games between now and the summer being in the way of the time that he probably wants to have on the training pitch, of the extra recruitment that he wants to get in. So I think performances like that shape people's futures, and obviously Kent didn't perform well. What about you, Derek? Are you changed?
Yeah, there is a feeling that we just want this league over and done with. Of course, there is that huge semi-final coming up at the end of the month. That's the only game that matters now, really. I think for the supporters, Rangers need to win that one. I think it's important for Michael Beale more than anything, really, just to arrest that slide, get one over his opposite number, and just provide a bit of optimism. But I do worry with this squad of players, as Kev Armstrong rightly points out, says the difference since Beale came in is night and day. Totally agree. However, only so much he can do with this group of players. He has said it in many times, every press conference, every interview now, about that summer rebuild.
Yeah,
but he can't rebuild from now. He's got this group of players to work with, and it's important he gets every last bit of effort out of them until especially for that semi-final come the end of the month. And of course, we've got the dead rubber Ibrox Old Firm game coming up as well. I think if you can pick up 2 wins there, Joshua, we head into the summer with a bit more optimism. I think everyone is well aware that this squad needs overhauled and changes are afoot, but we just need to see a win over Celtic just to provide that optimism that Rangers can go toe-to-toe next season, because 12 points is unacceptable.
And Beale will know that. I mean, it is important. I think important to obviously remember the situation he inherited, and just how kind of broken that team was. I don't know. Maybe you could say he could have made a sub earlier on Saturday. I certainly, I was thinking that maybe it's time to bring Sakal on, but I think it's harsh to say a manager got it wrong for that. I don't know what more he can really do from Saturday. He set the team up well to nullify Celtic and create moments, create chances. He can't obviously finish the chances that the players take. You'd bank on if Rangers had a more clinical forward in that game, a couple more clinical forwards, then the result could be different. So I think it is important that although Beale has lost these last two Old Firm games, the piece I have out this morning is a bit more of an optimistic look ahead to the fact that the performance against Celtic was so much better away from home, especially. But everything hinges on results. Think back to this time last year in the semi-final. Up until 76 minutes, it looked as though Celtic were going to win a treble, and Rangers, just off the back of beating Braga going into the semi-final, the moods, or was it before? I can't remember. Either way, the mood was low. It would have been low had that game been lost. And it's just the reality. Everything hinges on these games. So we said before the game at the weekend at the semi-final was the biggest one, obviously 3 weeks away. So much hinges on that, not just for individual futures, but you're completely right, for the good work that Beale will feel he's doing behind the scenes. And I think justifiably so. He'll know that only matters if he can start getting results. And Hampden is so big for that.
Yeah, Malky says, my fear is that the players' heads will go down now. That ties in. I think it's time now to see, I know Matondo was mentioned, but other players, fringe players that we've not maybe seen as much recently, i.e. Yanis Hadji. I think it's time to pitch him in. I know he's just come back off a long-term injury, but if he's fit enough to be in the matchday squad, he's fit enough to play. Ridvan Yilmaz is another one I think that everyone would like to see more of. Saying that, I thought Bonner had a reasonably steady game at the weekend. His clearance off the line from Kyogo was absolutely unbelievable. I know what was said. The offside flag was up, but that was fantastic. And of course, as I mentioned, the assist for Tavernier's goal. I would have loved if he just pinged that one in for the free kick right at the tail end of the game. Then we were talking about it's a completely different show this morning. But listen, I want to see Ridvan get more game time between now and the end of the season. I've seen someone commenting as well about Robbie McCrory. Michael Beale has said that himself, that he wants to give him a chance before the end of the season to see if he's able to take the gloves, I guess, off Alan McGregor going forward. I think now is the time to play him. Also, and if there's one or two others, I know when we touched on the show after the game on Saturday, there was a comment coming in listing off a number of the young lads in the B team. I think we need to be careful with regards to that because many of them aren't yet ready to make that jump up from Lowland League football, which is where they're playing predominantly to first team level. I know that Bailey Rice made his debut against Livingston, wasn't it, about a month or so ago. I think he's got a bright future ahead of him, but I'm not entirely sure he's ready for consecutive, consistent first team football as yet. But the likes of Alex Lowry, Adam Devine's another one. I know Robbie Ure was mentioned in the comments as well. It's boy Zach Lovelace as well is another one. I think now is a time for Michael Beale, because these are the future at the end of the day of Rangers. Joshua, Michael Beale has said that decisions have already been made internally on players' futures. So I think we may see a bit of change with St Mirren coming to Ibrox on Saturday. Do you envisage a bit of change, or do you think it's going to be maybe a handful of changes? What do you think is going to happen?
It's difficult to know. I think that Beale probably, when him and his coaching staff are watching back that game, they'll look at the fine margins and say, between now and the end of the season, is there much? I don't think they're going to chuck in loads of young players, unless if Rangers lose the semi-final, then maybe there is an argument for that. But they need to win it, and everything they need to play their strongest team up until then. So I don't see there being much change. I mean, St Mirren on Saturday will be, I think, a difficult game for many people to get excited about, because it will undoubtedly kind of be a slow game, and there won't be, obviously, there'll be a chance to respond, but not the chance to respond doesn't come until the game at Hampden at the end of end of the month. But I think they'll look at their approach, and it'll be interesting to see how Celtic react to that at Hampden. As I say, I thought Rangers were able to really nullify them. They conceded that repetitive goal at the start, but aside from that, they were really able to keep them out of that area. It's a fine line between being, I guess, optimistic and looking at the good things in that performance, and also the fact that it was another defeat. And just everything hinges on that game at the end of the month, Derek. Absolutely.
Yeah, Macca raises a good point just on the youngsters. He says, no harm in playing the boys, Derek. We beat Hearts with a B team last season. Certainly did, and they did extremely well at Tynecastle in that game. I remember watching Alex Lowry with an absolute stunning goal. Who scored the other ones? It was...
Cole McKinnon.
Yes, that's the one.
Cedric Kitten from a corner.
Yes, bring him home. I heard he's scoring for fun over in Switzerland for young boys. But good to see him doing well. Big said. But listen, I think now is the time to give opportunities to players that have found game time hard to come by recently. Right, folks, I think that will do us there. Thanks to everyone for interacting with the show as ever. It is greatly appreciated. We'll be back again tomorrow, myself. And it may be Johnny or Josh. I'm not entirely sure yet, but we'll be back anyway. Whether or not we will bring you the daily video. If you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, folks, so you'll never miss a video when we go live. As I mentioned earlier, we have a daily briefing Rangers video every weekday morning, so well worth subscribing for that. It's totally free. If you want to subscribe to the website, we've got an offer on just now. You can see the little ticker below, just £2 for 2 months worth of content. You won't be disappointed. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe to sign up. Big thanks to Joshua, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Easter Monday. Bye for now.